Hey everybody, Coach John here. Today I'm going to go through some basics of calorie counting. If you've counted calories in the past, chances are you've had some bad experiences. You felt like you got too obsessive or it was too stressful or too taxing. I think everybody's been there. I certainly have. It's very understandable, but believe me, there's far more here than some of those bad experiences. There's a lot more here that's good and valuable that we can take from this practice. As you'll see by the end of the video, there are many reasons to count calories and many benefits from it that go beyond just starting a diet. So first off, let me note that you don't have to count calories forever. Calorie counting is very useful and it doesn't have to be a lifestyle. It can be something you do for periods of time. I think calorie counting is best seen not as a way to control your eating or control your behavior, but as a way to calibrate it. It gives you data that doesn't require your subjective judgment. It doesn't require you to go, how do I feel today? It's just numbers, right? And the great thing about that is that even when we're feeling poorly, when we're feeling great, whatever, the numbers are the same. First off, I want to make the point that calorie counting is fundamentally about building awareness. You cannot improve a system that you're blind to, right? If you want to lose weight, especially if you want to lose weight in the long term and keep it off, you have to respect that this isn't just some change like getting a haircut, right? This is a major change to the trajectory of your life. This is going to mean you taking a good look at how you function, how your brain automates a lot of your behavior. And of course, it's going to involve things like looking at emotional eating, your motivation issues. And I get into that in many other videos. But even at the bedrock, even at like step one, the easiest step, we are starting a journey of awareness building. Because whether you fully realize it or not, awareness is what's going to shift you from being somebody who is 500 pounds and addicted to food to somebody who's at a healthy weight and is free to eat in a natural way that doesn't cause harm to their body and is free to move with their impulses. They're free to do the things they want to do and see like good results come from that and not disadvantageous results. And if you'd like to learn more about why awareness building changes the game of weight loss, you can let me know in the comments below. If I've made a video previously, I'll link you to it. Otherwise, I'll make a video very soon in the future. So again, we're not trying to control our eating when we count calories. We're trying to calibrate it. We're trying to give our mind information so it can make a value-based decision. This is very different from, I've got to eat this many calories or else I'm going to die, right? Which if I've got to eat this many calories in order to lose weight so that people will love me, so that I can exist on this planet, right? That's how we get into calorie counting equals kind of a life or death thing. And that's where it gets to be stressful and not fun and super lame and detrimental. So we want to get to a place where we have really exact data, really good data. And a good place for most people to start is simply keeping a food journal. You can just write down the foods you eat in a day. You can start off by doing this at the end of the day, trying to recall what you ate, but eventually you're going to want to keep this throughout the day. Keep it in a notes app on your phone. You can literally write it with pen and paper. Just keep a general list of what you ate and be able to recognize, okay, I ate this, I ate this, I ate this. I had grapes, I had chips, I had a salad, I had a steak, I had jelly beans, I had a sugary coffee, on and on and on. And we're not judging any of these things. We don't need to judge any of these things as good or bad. We just need to give our minds information. Objective data needs to be objective. If we start putting a bunch of subjective meaning onto the data, we're actually perverting it and we're making it less useful to the mind. So realize that if your mind starts to tell you that, oh, jelly beans bad, sugar coffee bad, salad good, you need to shut that down and just let your brain absorb the information as sanitized as possible from those subjective judgments. When you're new to it, it's probably going to be a little bit difficult. You're probably not going to be 100% sanitized, but the more objective information you can give your brain, the better, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, just more objective than you have done in the past is a huge shift in the right direction. So then we want to start bringing in numbers, right? We want to start actually knowing calorie counts. So that means we're going to start measuring our food, getting a food scale. Some people think of food scales as a pain in the butt. Like, I love my food scale. It makes my life so much easier. Today, I was like, oh, I really feel like having X, Y, and Z. And I got out the food scale and I poured out the portion that I wanted of that thing. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, that's nearly 700 calories. Good Lord. I don't want that. And I put it back because I had that many calories was just like, no, that's not worth it compared to what I wanted out of this. So that food scale gave me exact information. Whereas just eyeballing it, even after doing this for this long, I'm pretty good at eyeballing stuff. Having that food scale there to tell me, no, man, you're way off. That saved me hundreds of calories today. And I'm really glad that it did. The food scale is cheap. It's easy to use. And I actually think it's kind of fun to use. It's nice not having to guess, right? At this point, using a calorie tracker like MyFitnessPal, Lose It, Fat Secret, Macro Factor, Carbon Diet App, the last two are paid. They're more expensive. They can actually like do calculations and other things that tell you, how much you should eat and blah, 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 blah. I don't think that's really important. I think something like Lose It is a good starting place for most people. And I'm sure there are other free apps out there, but Lose It has a pretty good library of foods to choose from. And I think that that's very helpful. So yeah, this next step would be to get more familiar with food tracking, calorie tracking, and don't get obsessive about your macros yet. Protein, fats, carbs, we don't need to know that yet. People talk a lot about that stuff. I think it's generally overblown for most people in most circumstances. Certainly at this point in the process, that's not something that we want to focus on. So notice we haven't gone on a diet yet. We're just noticing what we eat. And this is really important. You can't just relate calorie counting to dieting. That would be like saying, I only get in my car to speed. That doesn't make sense, right? The amount of calories you eat, be it eating more than you need or less than you need or exactly what you need, and being able to adjust that based on your activity level. These are all the things we do with our car driving at the speed limit to get across town. Sometimes it's snowy outside. You got to go slow. So you drive slower. Everything has its use. And the same thing is true of calorie counting. You can use it in many different instances to improve your life and to improve your health outcomes while using less mental effort. It's actually less mental effort in the long run, believe me. So for somebody who is severely overweight, this is extremely helpful because it tells them how much they eat on an average day. And it allows them to see, okay, this is the input that's causing this output. If I'm 375 pounds on average, on an average day, look at what I eat on an average day. These are the things I have to eat in these quantities to maintain this weight of 375 pounds. If I ate less than this, I would weigh less than this, right? And this is very helpful because now that we've taken a look at what we eat during a day, not what we should eat, not the meal plan someone's trying to give us, what we actually eat, we can begin to look at those and say, okay, where are the easiest places to remove calories? And those are obviously going to be the most calorically dense, the most sugary, the things that really mix a lot of carbs and fat together. So when we do want to go into our calorie deficit and start actively losing weight, that makes it a whole lot easier. So track your food, track your calories before you even try to go on a diet. It is so valuable. And that way you'll know how to make intelligent decisions about what kind of deficit you want to be in and how to get there. And we can talk more about that later or in another video. So as far as how do you count calories to lose weight? Well, doing it our way, we have tracked for a few days. We've taken the average, right? We make sure that if our weight is staying the same, let's say in this example, 375 over the course of a week, and we can see, okay, this is what we ate over the course of that week. Here's how many calories per day. Here's the average daily calories. Let's say we're eating 3,400 calories on an average day at 375 pounds. Great. Now, if we want to go into a calorie deficit, we just need to go below 3,400. Now, normally we would have been eating, having no idea what our baseline was, going on a diet, having no idea what kind of deficit we were putting our body in. And a bigger deficit is going to cause more stress. And a smaller deficit is just not going to get us the results we're looking for. So this is why guessing at your calorie deficit is really not a smart thing to do. You want to make intelligent decisions. For this reason and the reasons I mentioned before, counting your calories for a little while before you ever go on a diet is the best way to go, 100%. Now, some people like to use online calculators. They're like, I want to start a diet today. I need to know my maintenance. Okay, so you get onto an online calculator, and that can get you within a few hundred calories of being accurate as far as giving you your maintenance and a good suggested calorie intake to put you in a deficit. But these calculators are fraught with problems. There's a lot of user error. There's a lot of subjectivity that people they're self-selecting like how active they are and all these things. It can really throw things off. So if you're going to use an online calorie calculator, you have to be very careful and take it with a giant grain of salt. Whatever it tells you, you got to use that as a starting point and then start to dial it in, still using the tools that I just mentioned, looking at your average daily calories and watching what's happening on the scale. And one thing I should mention, whether you're counting just to get an idea of what your maintenance is or counting to actually put yourself in a deficit, get in the habit of counting everything that goes in your mouth, because you wouldn't believe how fast the nibbles, the licks, the little snacking here and there, the things we don't count, sauces, ketchup, soy sauce, beverages, they add up so fast, right? And when you are trying to put yourself in a 700 calorie deficit, if you accidentally ate 250 calories that day with just nibbles and little bits here and there, which is very possible, you've just massively diminished the effect of your program without realizing it. And so you're not going to get the effect you want. And then you're going to be like, oh, I can't lose weight. I'm losing faith in the process, right? And then we spiral, right? And this is one of the best ways to avoid getting upset about your progress and then spiraling and then burning out, is to have accurate information. Don't create expectations based on inaccurate information. You're just deluding yourself if you're not counting everything. So when you are ready to begin your weight loss diet, activity is going to play a big role in that, right? You can create a deficit just through adding activity, right? We can do that. But today we're talking more about how to create deficits just on the food side. So we'll just focus on that. You want to remove calories mainly from carbohydrates and fats. Now, I said before, you don't need to count these things, right? And you don't need to count these things to do that. If you look at the foods you're eating and go jelly beans, sugary coffee, salad, soup, cheese, whatever, bananas, like you can look at the food and go, okay, I can identify that that's a carbohydrate, and the jelly beans are a carbohydrate, and the sugary coffee, the sugar in the coffee is a carbohydrate. Wow, I'm getting plenty of carbohydrates. So which of these could I take out or lessen or swap out for a lower calorie alternative, right? We're not trying to go low carb. Don't get me wrong. We're just trying to lower calories using our carbs and fats first, because we want to leave protein alone. Most of you are not getting enough protein. So if we don't take any out, it'll be easier to get it to the level where you need it. So that's how you can start your diet. You can start losing weight just by looking at the biggest calorie contributors in your diet, the most sugary, the most calorie dense things. Calorie dense things tend to have a combination of carbs and fats. And you can look at ways to remove them, replace them, or moderate them. A lot of times we notice like, I actually get 90% of the enjoyment out of, half that coffee than drinking the entire thing. I don't really need the whole thing. I kind of get my hit of what I'm looking for halfway through. That's just an example, right? And then you could save the rest for tomorrow or toss it and save yourself those calories. And it's kind of fun, honestly. Most people, when they start creating a calorie deficit this way, they feel like they're making decisions based on their likes and dislikes. And that is far more empowering than somebody just telling you from the outside, you can't do this anymore, right? That offends our dignity, that offends our autonomy. We don't like being told what to do. We like to make our own decisions for our own reasons. And if you take this approach, this is how you're going to build a diet that you're going to actually be able to stick to, because it's not running over your toes, right? You're making changes because you want those changes, and you're making them according to your likes and dislikes and preferences. And this is just a kinder, more self-loving way to enter into a very successful calorie deficit. So the next question people will ask is, well, how deep of a calorie deficit should I be in? Generally speaking, the weight loss math is 500 calories deficit per day is going to work out to about a pound of fat per week. And a pound may not sound like a lot to you, but that's a pound of fat if you're doing things right. And a pound of fat is a lot. Just think of that as like a gallon of gas, right? However many pounds of fat you have on your body, just think of that as a car with like fuel cans strapped to the outside. Right? If you have 75 pounds to lose, you've got 75 gallons of gas that you're just carrying around on the outside of your car. Every time you can burn through a gallon of that extra gas you have that you're carrying around, you're going to feel lighter, you're going to feel better, and pretty soon it's going to add up. So generally speaking, if you're new to this, I think a 10% deficit is a good place to start. So if your maintenance calories was 2,800, starting with a 280 or 300 calorie deficit just to get your feet wet, allow your body to get a little bit used to it. This is a skill, right? And skills get better with practice. And you will be a successful dieter when you get used to practicing this. Get used to the fact that your body's going to feel different. Your hunger might change. Things are just going to be different, and different is okay. And if you can roll with the punches and learn from your failures, then you're going to keep getting better and better and better at this, to the point where you'll be like, all right, I got this. I know how to get my calories low. I know how to keep them there. I know how to eat foods that make me feel good, keep me fuller longer. And from there, you can play around with your calorie deficit. If it's not stressing you out too bad, you can lower it. You'll lose weight a bit faster that way. But generally, before we start going into deeper and deeper calorie deficits, we want to make sure that we're getting enough protein, We want to raise protein as much as possible. Can't really go too high. If you feel like your entire diet is becoming protein, well, then you're probably going a little bit too far. We want to keep our fats and some carbohydrates in there for balance. Protein recommendations really depend on the activity you're doing, how much lean mass you have, and that can be hard to know. If you're 400 pounds, you might not know what your lean mass is, right? One trick is to take your height in centimeters and try to get that many grams of protein per day. And I think that's a good baseline. If you hit that, I think you're doing pretty well. You can always exceed it and see how you feel, but that's a really good baseline. And I have other videos on how to find protein, how to include that in your diet. And if you have questions, you can ask them below. Okay, so that's the quick and dirty approach to getting into a calorie deficit or just learning how to count calories to begin with. This is a highly effective skill that you can improve on over time. If you've had bad experiences in the past, it does not have to be that way. I've had those experiences. All my clients have had those experiences. If it's really messing you up, pull back by all means. But if you're interested in learning how to make it easier, come into my free group, Lose Weight with John. You can find the link below. Or you can email me about coaching and I can guide you personally through setting up your diet. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Mainly what coaching is for is that we really get into the inner stuff, the emotional, mental side of why you're doing what you're doing, why you're having a hard time being motivated, why you're having a hard time letting go of emotional eating, all that stuff. We get into far more than just calories in, calories out. It's a very holistic approach that covers just about every angle. So like I said, I have free and paid resources. I would love to help you be able to do this, to do it well, and to do it easily, quite frankly. This stuff generally gets overcomplicated, and doubly so for people who are looking to lose a significant amount of weight versus looking to, tone up for beach season. If you have 50, 100, 200 pounds to lose, please avail yourself of my resources. For the love of God, let me help you, because that's literally the only reason I'm here right now. I used to weigh 430 pounds. Now I don't. And finding appropriate information was just so hard at the time. I don't want people scrolling, watching a bunch of content on the internet that's just going to throw them off and overcomplicate and frankly give them wrong information a lot of the time. So thank you for watching. I appreciate a subscribe, a like, a comment. If this was helpful, throw me a comment. Anything to help the channel grow. I'm going to try to do more here. And I appreciate your encouragement if you like this sort of content. So thank you. We'll talk to you soon.